Most people think getting clients is the hard part, especially if you're running an automation agency as a solo founder. They'll tell you cold outreach is brutal, clients don't trust you, competition is insane. But here's the truth most people miss. Getting clients isn't hard. Being confident in what your offering is. When you don't fully understand your tools, when you're stitching together random workflows, when you can't clearly explain why your solution works, clients can feel that immediately. So instead of chasing clients, this approach flips the problem. You focus on mastering a small, focused set of tools. You build real solutions, not demos that break under pressure. You document what you build. You show clear use cases. You record walkthroughs. You create proof before you ever sell. At that point, you're not pitching anymore. You're offering a solution that already exists. As a solopreneur, this matters even more. You don't need a big team. You don't need constant calls. You don't need to convince anyone. You build once, you explain it clearly. You hand over something that works. And when that happens, clients don't need to be chased. They come to you. So in this video, we're not starting with outreach. We're starting with confidence, tools, systems, and clarity. And once those are in place, getting clients in 30 days becomes the side effect, not the goal. If you're into this kind of content, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for future videos.
Right now, automation feels harder than it should. Not because the idea is bad, and not because there isn't demand, but because there's too much noise. Too many tools, too many tutorials, everyone building almost the same thing, just packaged slightly different. So instead of feeling solid, a lot of solutions feel fragile, like they work until something small changes. And deep down, founders know this. That's why explaining the system feels stressful. You're hoping nothing breaks while you're talking. You're simplifying because you don't fully trust it just yet. And that's usually the signal. If you are nervous explaining your own system, something feels off. Not with you, with how early the setting started. That is the confidence gap nobody really talks about. Most people jump to selling before they actually lived with their tools. They built something once, maybe twice, and then they're already offering it to clients. But they haven't seen it fail. They haven't watched it break at 2 a.m. They don't know what happens when inputs change or when assumptions go wrong. There's no muscle memory yet. And without that, confidence becomes performative. You're trying to sound certain instead of actually being certain. Real confidence doesn't come from personality. It doesn't come from sales skill. It comes from familiarity. From running the same system again and again. From knowing where it's weak. From understanding what's not to promise. Once you've lived with your tools long enough, the pressure disappears. You stop overselling. You stop rushing because you're not guessing anymore. You are just explaining something you already understand. You want to actually build confidence in what you're using. Our free community gives you real hands-on experience with these tools, so you can genuinely be confident before you ever sell a product. Solopreneurs actually have an advantage here. Just doesn't look like one at first. When you're working solo, you're constantly told what you don't have. You don't have a team, you don't have scale, you don't have layers of support. So people assume you need to compensate for that. More tools, more complexity, more systems stacked up on top of systems. But that's backward. When you're solo, you don't need to scale. You don't need to support 10 use cases at once. You don't need a system that works for everyone. You need something that works reliably. Small, focused systems tend to do that better. They are easier to reason about, easier to debug, easier to explain, and most importantly, easier to trust. Every extra tool you add increases coordination. Every integration adds another failure point. Every clever shortcut creates something you have to remember later. So when you are a solopreneur, you feel those costs immediately. There's no one else to absorb the complexity for you, and that's the advantage. Fewer moving parts means more control. More control means fewer surprises. Fewer surprises means calm conversations. You're not scrambling when something breaks. You're not guessing where the issue is. You know the system because you built all of it. Over time, this changes how you think. You stop chasing clever architectures. You stop building for hypothetical futures. You build for what exists right now. And systems like that age better. Simple systems age better than thorough ones. They survive tool changes, they survive trend shifts, they survive new requirements because they are understandable. For a solopreneur then, understanding is leverage. It lets you move slower but with more confidence. It lets you say no without stress. It lets you deliver without overthinking. You're not behind, you're not underpowered. You're just operating in a way that favors clarity over complex, and in automation that matters more than scale. Most people build something quickly, then immediately start talking about it. But the real leverage comes from doing the opposite. You build quietly first. You don't build for clients. You don't build for an audience. You build something that you actually use. You run it in your own environment. You let it sit, you let it fail. And when something breaks, you don't patch it just enough to survive a demo. You document what broke. You document why it broke. And you fix it in a way that makes the system more understandable next time. That process does something important. It removes guesswork. You are no longer relying on memory or assumptions. You are creating a trail of understanding. And that's what documentation really is. It's not for clients. It's proof that you understand your own system. When you can write down how something works, where it fails, what its limits are, and what it's not designed to do, you are no longer pretending to be confident. You actually are confident. Most people think documentation is extra work, but for a solopreneur, it's confession. It takes scattered knowledge in your head and turns it into something stable. Once you have gone through that cycle enough times, build, use, break, document, fix, something changes in how you talk. You stop pitching, you stop over-explaining stuff because you're not selling an idea anymore. You're explaining something that already exists. And that's where the pull effect comes from. Clear explanation reduces risk, not because they persuasive, but because they remove uncertainty. A demo does more than any promise ever could. It shows that the system is real, that it runs, that it has limits you understand. People trust things that already exist. They trust things that can be walked through slowly. They trust calm explanations more than confident claims. So conversations start to feel different. They slow down, they become more practical, more grounded. Instead of can you build this, the question is, how does this work in my case? And that shift matters a lot because you're no longer trying to convince anyone. You're just clarifying how this fit. That's why building quietly first is powerful. It gives you time to think clearly, to simplify, to remove parts that don't matter. And then you finally speak about what you have built. There is no urgency in your voice, no pressure, no performance. You're not guessing it. You're just explaining something you already understand. And when the work is already done, convincing stops being necessary. The idea of 30 days gets misunderstood a lot. It sounds like a promise, like a shortcut, like something is supposed to magically change at the end of it. But 30 days isn't magic. It's just a realistic amount of time. Enough time to slow down and actually get comfortable with the tools you're using. Enough time to build one real solution instead of 5 half-finished ones. Enough time to understand what you have built well enough to explain it clearly. That's usually when things start to click. Not because you're rushed, but because you stayed with the same problem long enough to understand it. When you do that, momentum starts to feel different. It's not urgency, it's not pressure, it's not panic, it's clarity. Momentum comes from clarity, not speed. Once you know what you're doing, everything else feels lighter. Talking about your work feels easier. Questions don't feel threatening. You are not constantly worried about being exposed or caught off guard. And that's why outreach itself isn't the enemy. Reaching out to people isn't bad. Sales isn't evil. Conversations aren't the problem. The problem is turning those conversations before you're ready. When you build something you don't fully trust, every message feels heavy, every call feels stressful, every client feels like pressure. But when you have built something solid, something you understand, something you have lived with, tone changes. You speak more calmly. You're okay saying no. You're okay setting limits because you're not chasing outcomes anymore. You're offering something real. So if there's one idea to sit with, it is this. Build something you trust. Talk about it calmly. Let readiness come before reach. Because when you're ready, clients don't feel like pressure anymore. If you're serious about building solutions like this and you're willing to learn step by step and work on real projects, you're welcome to join our free community. Inside, we teach everything from ground up, starting from zero with practical hands-on guidance. And if you're someone who's interested in using this solution but doesn't want to dive into technical side and instead wants to move fast and scale sooner, you can also partner with us and hire our tech team to build these systems for you. Either way, the goal is the same, helping you move from ideas to real working solutions.